Jeff Bezos' Project Kuiper moves right next door to Elon Musk's SpaceX Starlink. Should Jeff walk next door and ask Elon to borrow a cup of sugar? He might need to. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. I love that smokiness. You know I do. I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, hanging out, talking tech, talking photo, talking video. Today is a tech day. We're going to be talking space and Amazon and Bezos, Elon Musk competition between each other. A friendly rivalry. Not so much, guys. Not so much. So the question that I do have is, will Bezos end up needing Elon Musk? And maybe walking next door and borrowing a cup of sugar, like I said, it's possible. And I'm going to tell you why before the end of this video. So before we get into this, I want to say that if you enjoyed this video, even in the least, consider throwing it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. If you're already subscribed, please click this little button over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you will be notified of it immediately. Also, check out some of my ebooks. They are 100% free. Go to JCristina.com/books. And if you want more Starlink content like this, go over to my Starlink playlist. I'll put a link right over here. There's about 165, 170 specific Starlink videos, all about how-tos, tips, tricks, what to buy, what not to buy, why. This channel is always about the why. And of course, commentary. So check those out. And if you just want to say thank you for all of my hard work, there'll be a thank you button right down here. You can give $1 or $2 if you want. If not, that's fine too. Consider becoming a member of the channel. That would be even better. So to get started, I want to say that I was reading a bunch of articles about something that just happened last week, at the end of the week. And what it was Jeff Bezos, Amazon, let's say, said that, listen, we are now slated to build a satellite facility at NASA's Kennedy Space Center. Now that's in Florida. That's on the Space Coast. It's about 3 hours, maybe less, away from me. So that's kind of exciting news. They're going to be building this facility right next door to SpaceX. Now, if you guys didn't know it, last year, Jeff Bezos made an announcement, and basically it stated something like he was going to procure the largest ever amount of launches or launch vehicles, I think total of 77 launch missions, to be able to put his Project Kuiper satellites, 3,200 of them, into LEO, or low Earth orbit. That is a lot of missions. Once again, the largest number of missions procured ever. So this is what he needs to do to be able to compete with Elon Musk's SpaceX Starlink. Now, these 3,200 satellites will form Jeff Bezos' dream constellation, let's call it, that is designed to rival Elon Musk's SpaceX Starlink. Now, if you guys are new here and you don't know what SpaceX Starlink is, basically it is a non-terrestrial broadband internet service. It's like an ISP in the stars, right? In LEO, about 500 to 550 kilometers off Earth. That is where Elon Musk satellites are, and currently there's about 4,000 of them in operation. That is SpaceX Starlink, and that's what I've been using for the last year and a half for my main internet service provider. I also have T-Mobile, I also have AT&T, but then again, I have a lot of different providers because I need to be online because I'm servicing you guys, right? So this Amazon facility that is being produced for the Project Kuiper is said to be 31,000 square meters. So let's call it 100,000 square feet. It is just massive. Absolutely massive. 100,000 square feet is nothing to sneeze at. But when I was reading the article, it stated that it was going to employ 50 people. 50 people for 31,000 square meters, 50 people. So I would have to say that this means that this facility is going to be run basically by a couple of people, maybe some engineers, maybe some people on the line that facilitate the repair of some of the assembly lines and equipment. And that is it. It's probably going to be all robotics because it doesn't make sense. What are you going to do with 50 people in a massive building? Now, this is said to be completed before the end of 2024. So within a year and a half, Elon Musk, SpaceX, is going to have a next door neighbor. And that next door neighbor will be Jeff Bezos, and his project Kuiper and their facility for doing the final processing of the satellites before launching them into LEO, or low Earth orbit. Now, Amazon said this, quote, Amazon is investing $120 million in new construction and high-value equipment for the facility and creating up to 50 new jobs on the Space Coast. So that is what they were quoted in saying last week. So like I said, 50 new jobs is not a lot, but as we're listening to the new construction and the high-valued equipment, chances are this is going to be highly robotic, all right? This is going to be a facility, most likely of just about all robots, like an assembly line, but more of a finalization assembly line where they do the final processing of these satellites. And that's $120 million for that building right next door to SpaceX. That is not just something to sneeze at. Now, what I also was reading is that Amazon contracted ULA, which is United Launch Alliance, as well as Arianespace, and of course, Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin for those heavy rockets. The rockets that will be taking his Project Kuiper satellites into LEO. So there is 3 companies. And you notice the 3 do not include Elon Musk's company, SpaceX. So we'll get into that before the end of this video. Now, what I also found out was the satellites that were being brought into Florida were actually being assembled in Kirkland, Washington, and then trucked down to Florida, where they are, let's say, made ready, all right? The final preparations made here in this facility. Now, it's my understanding that Jeff Bezos is trying to offer his service, Project Kuiper, to enterprise customers by the end of next year. Now, I was trying to rationalize this to figure out if this is possible. I just don't see how it is. And if you guys do, let me know. Now, what I do find interesting, not just in the time frame, is that he is going after the enterprise customers first, which is the exact antithesis of what Elon Musk did. Musk, SpaceX Starlink, went directly after the residential customers to get a massing of them. And then after that, only after that, he got into enterprise, where it was planes, trains, boats, RVs, UFOs, whatever, once he got a good solid base of residential. He is now at about 1.5 million customers. That includes enterprise as well as residential, but I would speculate over 1 million of those are currently residential or RV or that type of customer in comparison to the enterprise, where you have the planes and the boats and the trains and all the rest of this stuff, UFOs. So I find that's very fascinating that Bezos is doing the exact polar opposite of what Elon has done. Will that serve him well? I guess the point would be moot if this ends up not happening. And the reason I say that is because the Kennedy Space Center facility is not likely to be operational until 2025. So if that's the case, how would they be able to facilitate any type of operations with enterprise? They wouldn't have any operations at all. Forget enterprise or residential. It just wouldn't happen because they want that to happen by 2024. The facility will not be in operation until 2025. So I don't know. I just don't get it. But as you know, a lot of the billionaires with these mega companies have a lot of, let's say, pie in the sky dates, right? They come up with these dates that are always ahead of when they really can make something happen. And I think it's almost as a means to push them, right? So they don't fall back on their laurels and become complacent, right? I think it pushes them forward. So if they don't meet that deadline and they just go over it a little bit, they're okay with it. But if they push that deadline to where they think it would be, they won't get there, right? Once again, sitting back on your laurels and not doing anything. I'm one that does that a lot. So maybe I need to take a play out of the playbook of Jeff or Elon, because that would probably be helpful for me. Anyways, the FCC, according to what I read, said that Jeff Bezos needs to launch the 1,618, which is half of the number of satellites, before, this is very important, before July 2026. So within 3 years, he has to have half of those satellites in LEO. And 3 years after that, By July 2029, he has to have the other half. So 3,200 working operational satellites in orbit by 2029. Now, that's not going to be easy. And the reason being is, once again, Jeff Bezos is relying on the three companies, the ULA, as well as Ariane, and of course his company, which is Blue Origin. And none of the three have gotten a single satellite into orbit as of yet. And it is my understanding they will not get a single satellite into orbit this year. So just take 6 months right out of the picture, because they will not see a Project Kuiper satellite in orbit in 2023. So this is a major problem. And I was reading something that kind of adds a little bit of fuel to the proverbial fire here. It says that Amazon initially announced plans to launch its first 2 prototype Project Kuiper satellites by the 4th quarter of 2022. That's last year. But it then switched to the Vulcan Centaur mission slated for the 4th quarter of this year. That mission will be the Vulcan Centaur's debut flight, the first one ever. And this flight has been delayed numerous times in the past. So the chances of that happening by the end of this year is unlikely. Now, what Amazon did state is they're going to be spending in excess of $10 billion on Project Kuiper. That is a lot of green. That is a lot of money, guys. $10 billion. That is what they're committed to spend on this satellite network. Now, the company's 3,200 satellites in this constellation is still relatively small, right, guys? Think about it. 3,200 satellites by 2029, where as of today, Elon already has 4,000 satellites. As well, the FCC has already provided him with license to launch another 7,500. That makes about 12,000 that will be in orbit. Now, these things are going to be going into orbit very quickly once the Starship comes online, doesn't blow up, and is able to take hundreds and hundreds of these version 2 SpaceX Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit. Now, remember, he then has already slated, or has paperwork in process, let's call it, with the FCC to launch an additional 30,000 satellites. So in totality, we're looking at 42,000 satellites. That is a lot. But even if we go back and just look at the 12,000, if you look at 12,000 compared to 3,200, there is no comparison to the service that Elon Musk will be able to offer in comparison to Jeff Bezos. So will this actually end up happening? That is the question. Because even though Jeff Bezos will be setting up shop right next to Elon Musk's SpaceX at the Kennedy Space Center here in Florida, it doesn't matter too much, because they still are going to have a really steep road ahead of them, a bumpy road, to be able to get those satellites into low Earth orbit. Think about it. The 3 companies, ULA, Ariane, as well as Blue Origin, have never got one into orbit as of yet. It is a major problem. That's why at the beginning of the video, I suggested that maybe Jeff Bezos is going to need to walk to his next door neighbor, Elon Musk, and ask him for a cup of sugar, meaning a ride. Because if those 3 companies, once again, ULA, as well as Ariane, and Jeff Bezos' own company, Blue Origin, cannot get those satellites into orbit by deadline, the FCC will pull their license. That is a problem. Now, personally, I love competition. And I would like to see competition to SpaceX Starlink, because it will lower price. It will also encourage them to produce better customer service, maybe a call center that you can actually reach out and touch someone. But I do believe in the next 5 years, we will not see Jeff Bezos' Project Kuiper in direct competition with Elon Musk's SpaceX Starlink. And if it is, it's going to be a small bit of competition. Because even once again, if they hit the 3,200 magic number For his dream constellation, Jeff Bezos has a real rocky road ahead of them, a steep rocky road ahead of him. So we will see what ends up happening with it. I want to know your thoughts. Do you think Jeff Bezos can do it with his project Kuiper, or do you think that Elon Musk will continue to run with the ball basically ad nauseum forever, in perpetuity, and not have any competition at all? Because even with the Chinese launching 13,500, I believe is what they're trying to launch, that will be a small number in comparison to what Elon Musk will have by the time they are able to launch them. It will be very difficult for anyone to compete with Elon Musk at this point because he's so far ahead. But it's always possible. Once again, I want to know your thoughts down below. Let's have this conversation. If you enjoyed this video, in the least, throw it a thumbs up. That'll be very helpful. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the years. And hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.